And this is why even in times of strife, when I have been building this business, I've always said, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I practice gratitude.
Hey friends, hey, welcome back to the show. I am so excited. Today in the guest chair, we have Raven Gibson. Raven is someone who I came across on Instagram because her products are just fire. Like, this is a brand that I think I will be buying for years to come. As long as she's open, I will be buying. So Raven founded legendary Rootz to empower, liberate, and uplift Black culture worldwide. Her innovative and vibrant apparel, accessories, and home decor designs are created to inspire the African diaspora to embrace their heritage and show their pride with confidence. You may have seen her products recently inside of Target or on her website, as well as her Instagram. So let's go ahead and jump into the conversation because we had so much fun talking, so many laughs, and I learned a lot, including some great tips on some software that she uses. So let's get right into it. Welcome to the guest chair. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to have a conversation and, get into it.
Exactly. I'm excited to get into it. You are someone who I came across on Instagram. I was just intrigued and so impressed by your artwork, your products, how your mind works. You're one of those accounts that people will try to duplicate, right? Or try to steal your art and try to act like, but your mind can't be duplicated, right? So when did you discover this artistic streak, this talent and gift that you have?
When I was younger, I actually hated art. I've always been a rebel. So I think that's what it was. I think I was, told what to create. And as an artist, I like to, start from the inside and create outwardly. But I appreciated that because it kind of gave me the foundation to create art. When I first started the brand, I was actually in college. I attended Arizona State University where I received my degree in biochemistry.
What?
Yeah, I was actually just looking for clothes to wear, to class. I was the type to just throw on something and go. I just needed to get in there. I had, classes, lab, recitation. So I just needed something that I could be comfortable in. Through the power of social media, it kind of turned into this whole brand. I think I posted some pictures of myself, first day on campus, freshman, all excited. And my friends were like, "Where'd you get your shirt from?" And I was like, "Oh, I made it." They're like, "Let me get one." And I was like, let me figure it out." So it kind of evolved from there.
Wow.
And
so from freshman year, you hit in the streets and people are like, "Oh, we need that."
Right. And it's funny because as I was kind of reflecting on where the business is now, you can see the growth from the first designs to what I produce now, which is great because it's a photographic memory of my journey of being a business owner.
I so enjoy meeting people who started in college. I think that's so smart. I wish I had been doing that. And at the time, like you said, you were pursuing biochemistry. So what were your original career plans? Did you plan to go into medicine?
Yeah, so I actually wanted to be a neonatologist, which is a doctor that specializes in neonatal care. So newborns who are born with certain issues or diseases or things like that, you help with them. Freshman year, I realized I actually don't like blood. So, and it's funny because one of my designs is take up space, and I realized freshman year that was not a space that I wanted to take up, and I tried to go the route of going to advising and trying to switch majors because I knew that I wanted to get a degree. I've always been curious, I've always been intellectual, but they actually pushed back on that. They were like, "Well, if you get in and the second year, you might not be able to graduate, you might have to leave the program and all that." And I kind of let that fear stop me from changing my degree, which I really appreciate now because learning biochemistry really taught me the importance of researching and reading a lot. And as a business owner, I have to learn a lot of different things, especially because I wear so many different hats. So I really appreciated, even though in that moment, thinking back to that Raven, I was like, she should have stood up for herself. But again, I always appreciate the journeys that I go through as I built this business.
Right. It teaches you something. And I love that you can look back at that Raven and say, "Oh man, I've grown so much because if that were today, here's what I would have said and done."
Right.
Right. Now, What made you so curious about neonatology? That's so specific.
So my niece was actually, she was born maybe 5 years before I started college. And that's my girl. I love her down. And I believe, and my family, their memories be tricky. So I don't always trust them. But I feel like she had some complications like right when she was born. It was nothing like she did not have to stay overnight or anything like that. But there were some complications. And I think, just being younger, being one of like the first people in my family to go and graduate college, like I knew that I wanted to take advantage of this opportunity. I also received a scholarship from my church. So I just wanted to take those blessings that I received in my life and outpour and help others. I've always been, I would say, like altruistic. My dad, he used to call me like the lawyer, like like when I was younger, and like, I would have issues with teachers or other students or whatever. I'd always stand my ground because that's just who I've always been. So when my niece was born and she did go to the neonatal center for just, I think it was like a day. I was like, oh, I didn't realize that was like an option. You hear about pediatricians, family doctors, like like you hear about all these other lanes, but I was like, oh, it would be cool if I could get in from the jump. But like I said, blood is not my thing. And I learned that early. I knew that I still, and what it's funny, like as I reflect on the business and the brand that I built, I'm still able to pour into people, which is really like, I think what really excites me and pushes me to continue growing and going.
It's interesting to me to learn more about what people were originally going to pursue, how their mind works. And I think it really says a lot about who you are as a person and the care that you have for people. So that was really cool to learn. And interestingly enough, I know that you noted that using design as a tool for self-care and well-being and empowerment is something that's important to you. I was literally this morning at this Mother's Day event at my son's school, and I'm going there thinking, all right, we're going to have, donuts for mom, like they usually have at these school stuff. But what they had was in the backyard, they had these art setups for us. So we had breakfast, but then they had like watercolor paint, and she introduced us to this concept of like design with lines. And overall, the goal was just to give us moms a break to just breathe. And I thought that was so thoughtful. And you know what? It was so relaxing. It was so therapeutic. I'm like, why haven't I been doing this more? So what was your experience with using design as a tool for self-care?
It's funny because, like I said, my art is selfish. It doesn't necessarily reflect that, but, and I think that's why, even through like the trials and tribulations of being a business owner, one thing that I think really connects with my audience is the fact that they see themselves in my art. And oftentimes they see themselves in my art because my art is me. If I'm posting a quote or if I'm posting an animation or an illustration or a new design, oftentimes I create it for myself. And I said, you know what? I think they'll like it. And one thing that I really appreciate about those who support me is the fact that they'll often tell me, because sometimes I will run into people, wearing my designs. And early on, a lot of what I continued to hear was, I love that your clothes and your designs and your art, it speaks for me. And like I said, I've always been outspoken. I would consider myself an introvert. I feel like many people don't probably know that or think that, but I do consider myself an introvert, but I've never had an issue with speaking up. That's me. It's inside of me. But I love that others who have supported the brand allow for the brand to be a tool for them to speak up for themselves, whether it's no, you cannot touch my hair, whether it's listen to Black women, whether it's pretty brown teen. At the end of the day, my goal is to empower others and I really appreciate that they relate to the brand and the mission. And something you said about watercoloring, I'm really big on therapy. I love therapy. One thing that I use as a tool of meditation and a space for me to just reflect. It doesn't matter what the art turns out looking like is watercolor. I'll get my paper, I'll get the watercolor, I'll get the paint, I'll just play around with it, and it's very liberating because there's no expectation. Yes. I'm just creating what's internally and bringing it externally.
It was so peaceful, and the thing that the art teacher taught us at the program was like, I wasn't even using watercolor, right, girl? Like I didn't even know. You could Like you could put the water on the paper, on the canvas, or you could
Yeah.
wet watercolor. Like I was just in there with my dry brush, dipping a little water, and then trying to get as much paint out, but that's not it, y'all. So allow yourself these moments of artistic expression. And you're right, your clothes and your mugs, they do allow me to say something that I didn't even know was on my mind. Like that pour into you mug is my favorite mug because just the art of pouring from a kettle, that's already a moment where you have to take a beat, right? Especially if you have a slow kettle like we do. My husband jokes because we have that aesthetic kettle that all the Instagrammers have, right? With the really skinny thing. But that thing takes forever to pour. But in that moment, I have to take a beat, and then I'm reminded, like, you deserve to take a beat. Like, pour it into you. That's what you should be doing anyway. Are there certain things that you started designing that stemmed from any particular instances or experiences that you had that made you realize I need to start putting some of these out into the world?
I think one of like my more popular designs that I feel like resonates even outside of my audience is the "You cannot pour from an empty cup." That one, I think, because I think when I released it, it was around 2019, 2020, which was right into the pandemic. And I think it really resonated because people got a secondary look into what their lives were looking like. You know, I think as now I call myself an adult, but I don't always feel like it. But as an adult, like after college, you realize, oh, this is when the real life, you know, you start becoming responsible for yourself. You start having to make the decisions that will directly affect you and no one else. You can't point any fingers. Well, you shouldn't point any fingers. Some people do, but you shouldn't point any fingers. And the "You cannot pour from an empty cup" really was a reminder. Again, it was for me, but I shared it with others and they resonated with it because we need that reminder. We need that reminder. I realize when I'm fussy, when I don't want to talk to nobody, when I get tired, I realize you might need to take a step back. And those designs and that art is that reminder to take a step back because we have bills, we have to feed ourselves. Like again, there's so many different responsibilities that we have. And I love that my art is a reminder not only for others, but for myself to take a break. I deserve it. And I don't have to make any kind of quarrels or like explanations for why I deserve the break because I just do.
You know, as you were speaking, it's funny. The thought that came to mind is sometimes you start peopling too early in the day, right? Like, oh, I didn't give myself enough of a buffer before the other people I encountered that day they came into my world. Like, I need to not start peopling too early. Let me pour my cup, then start peopling, then start dealing with other humans.
And two, I think that especially as Black women and as women, I feel like shame was consistently used as a tool to keep us in place. And I hope to remove that shame through my designs and my art. Because like we're allowed to set the boundary of I need some time. And I feel like we're not always taught that. And that's why even like sometimes like I'll be in therapy and like I'll be, you know, talking, having a conversation and ranting or whatever. And then I'll be like, let me write that down. And oftentimes, and sometimes, not oftentimes, sometimes those like little write downs, those little notes I will post it because it's kind of like your friend, like, you know, that like they deserve better or, you know, that they might need to hear something, but you don't necessarily always want to just come out and say it. So what I do is I design it, I post it and I leave it. Whoever receives it.
Nice. If you want to take this, then. All right. So now let's get down into the business of it all. Okay. So when were you bitten by the side hustle bug, AKA, oh, let me start selling some stuff?
It's funny because in high school, again, I love learning. Let me prerequisites that. I love learning, but in high school, again, I was a rebel. I hated homework. I hated assignments. I hated tests because I knew the material. Once I understood it, I knew it. And it's funny because I took an economics class. I actually sold shirts and I forgot about this because you start doing so many things, you just forget about it. I actually sold shirts and I believe that my project was like the most profitable project. I like went to Michael's.
I'm not surprised by that.
I I went to Michael's. I got some like, like the print on designs. And what's cool is like, I took like, I guess, again, not really thinking too deep into it, but I took like a personalization lens because I think other people were selling shirts, but they were like, they put a design on. Whereas I was like, if you give me an image, I got you. Just I'll create the shirt, I'll send it out to you. So I was like, the kids in high school, they're walking around with the snack girl. I was the shirt girl. So people would order with me. I don't even remember how I took orders. I might have did it on a spreadsheet or something. People took orders from me. But after that I kind of forgot about it. I was, doing my thing, enjoying high school, and once, like I said, once I got to college, I was creating things for myself. And then when I realized that, and it's funny too, because I'm really big on trusting guts, intuition, faith, like listening to things. And the first person who supported me in my econ class business was the first person who actually supported me when I started my business as well, Legendary Rootz as well. And that has been a really big thing. I think the support has really helped to project things. I know for a fact that there are people who are speaking about my brand who I might not even have a personal relationship with, that has really helped to elevate things. So
there are people speaking about you in rooms right now. Isn't that crazy? Like
it is.
It's done. It is well. It's also funny. I love that you mentioned that in high school you were doing this and you almost forgot about it. That's what a lot of us do. That's why I actually provide people with questions to jog that memory and also to give those questions to other people, because people see you when you just have it in your blind spot and you don't see yourself. People see your gifts and your skills that you take for granted. So then how did you remember, like, hey, I used to do this, and hey, I can do this by college or whenever you started to actually sell it?
I mean, just reflecting. I like therapy. Therapy has taught me the importance of journaling, and something that I really believe in, like manifestation, mindset, really understanding where I want to go and why I want it. And so journaling really helped me to remember that. And then also talking to people. I did something in LA around last year, December, and I was telling my family about it. I'm really close to them. They keep me right. They keep me humble. I'll say that much. Like, my sisters don't do it as much. I think I've maybe gotten to the level where they don't try to humble me as much. But they're like, I remember when you had 10 followers and 6 of us were like the 10 of, so there was that. Right. They just keep you humble. But when I was in LA, I was telling them, like, reflecting on it, and they're like, oh, how was it? I was like, it was great. And like, I am very quiet before I get comfortable. And I was just like, yeah, some of the people, it's a little questionable, and they're like, do you not realize? And I was like, oh, sometimes I need to remember, like you said, the impact that I've made. I forget it because, again, I'm creating for myself, but obviously I'm creating for others as well. And so sometimes I forget the impact and the kind of person I am, because I exist in me. And there's so much peace in that sometimes I do forget that.
Like, we are in our world. We wake up in the morning. We're in our room, in our home. We're in our bubble. We create it. We put it out, and then we go about our day. Right. And then you don't remember that there's a whole ecosystem that is listening, that is purchasing, that is wearing and using your product each and every day. And it's like, once you leave your house, you're like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, y'all out here.
Right.
I love that. When did Legendary Rootz start for real?
Okay, it started for real, let's say 2016. So 2014 is when the seed was planted. But I would say it rooted really in 2016. I was, I got all my documents together, bank accounts, before I was kind of flying, from the seat of my pants, just trying to figure it out as I go. It's funny because I will call myself a forever learner. And while I was I think I was waiting for one of my biochemistry labs, I was listening to a podcast, people talking and playing around. I ain't got all the time for that. I'm working, I'm chilling. And so I was listening to a podcast, and I was actually listening to, I don't remember if it was called something else, but Myleik Till, her podcast, and she had a podcast on branding. Before that, I knew I wanted to make things look pretty, but I don't necessarily know if I understood the importance of branding. And I feel like in that was around that 2016 time period where I was listening to that podcast, and she was talking about everything that you put out externally it should connect back to the brand, the ethos of the brand, the heart of the brand. And I think that that's what has helped to make the brand so successful is that the branding aspect of it, the art of it, the look of it. A lot of times, like I might have a call with a consultant that I might want to work with, and I'll tell them like, oh yeah, my brand, my target audience is 25 to 35, and they might be 45, 50. And they're like, can you send me the link? So I send the link. They're like, hold on, this is actually something that I want as well. And I think it connects back to that brand, the art and the beauty of it all.
I mean, you are uniquely blessed in that area because not everyone can literally take care of the branding in-house from your own brain and own design, like fingertips. So like I said, I love that about your brand. And what was behind the legendary Rootz name too?
I think my sister helped me come up with it. I don't want to say what the original name was. The original name was so bad. The original name was so bad. I don't really remember where I just remember, you're with your sisters. Yeah, you're with your sisters, you're with your family, you're just talking, and we were talking, and she was like, oh, what about Legendary Rootz? I was like, okay, okay. I want to make it a little different. So let's switch that S for a Z. And I love it because even when I'm talking about my brand, like, I'll tell people, oh, they're like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I own Legendary Rootz with a Z. And they're like, hold on. So they'll pull it out, they'll go to Google, and, they'll do their own, like, scrolling and searching and all that. But I think that's where the name came from.
Yes, I like that you mentioned too that wasn't the original name to remind everybody you got to start somewhere. And
you have to start somewhere.
You see out here, they may not have started there. Okay, so sometimes people get stuck like, oh, that's the perfect name. How do they think about it? Blah blah blah. Like, let's move forward. Take one step at a time. You said something about your first customer being the first customer of the business. Did I get that right? Like, do you remember who that customer was, what they bought?
Yeah, it's my homegirl Asia. I don't remember what she bought.
Okay.
But yeah, she was the first supporter. Right. Shout out to Asia. She was the first supporter of my econ business and the first supporter of like the shop.
So you talked a little bit about, setting up your bank account, the naming, like those first steps to get started. But I'm curious what the early days look like for you, putting up your website, selling stuff, and then having to actually send it to people. What was your process at the time?
So once I got the name established, bank accounts, all the back end stuff created, I knew that I needed to have the products hosted. I did do like print on demand, which was really helpful, especially being a college student. I didn't want to have tons of boxes in my dorm, which that did happen eventually later. But I took pictures of the products. I ordered some samples, and I posted them on the site, and I started sharing them. What I will say is, I would say even till now, but from 2016 to 2019, social media support was a huge driver. I think people were sharing them. Like, I don't know if you remember Tumblr. I think it might be coming back a little bit.
Yeah, I used to love Tumblr. Oh my God. Yeah.
People were posting on Tumblr. There were a lot of like Black empowerment pages. So I would like submit to them. They would post it. Sometimes I wouldn't even know, I do like a little search for Legendary Rootz. And that's something that I will say about the name. It's so unique that it's kind of separated from anybody else. So when I would search it, I would find what was about my brand, even if they didn't tag me. They might have, wrote it as a tag, but like they didn't actually tag the brand. So I really appreciated that. But Tumblr was in the beginning, Tumblr was a really big pusher. And then getting everything set up, I don't recall when I switched over to Shopify, but Shopify was the goal in getting things set up easily.
Yes.
I was able to integrate it with my different payment processors.
I love it. Yeah,
I love it. I hope they stay consistent. I don't know where else I would go. But I really appreciate Shopify. And even now, like it's crazy too, because I do most everything. So I'm in the back end updating things, adding tags, updating descriptions, photos, all that. And I love how the software has like really grown since when I was first using it. But I think Shopify and having a website really helped me to ease things out. So I wasn't necessarily having to touch any product. So if I had an idea, unless I had used those colors or the style before, I would always order a sample just so I could take my
Okay.
own pictures, just so I can make sure that it looks how I envisioned it. Because a lot of times I was just creating on my laptop, which that's like 3 laptops ago. That's one thing I will say. It ran my laptops through, but I saw it on my laptop, got the sample, like approved it, which I was the approver, but approved it, took pictures of it, maybe, and that's another thing too. One of my cousins, she's not a cousin, but you know us, she's one of my cousins.
Yes, yes, right. One of your cousins.
Her name is Kayla Jones. She's a model, singer, actress, and she was like one of my first models, which that was a whole other thing. I think really building as I went allowed me to understand the processes. And I would say in 2020, things blew up everywhere for everyone, but for the business especially. This is when I couldn't take emails in my email processor anymore. Gmail no longer worked for
Ooh,
me. I had to find a
wow.
software to facilitate that. I had to bring in help. I just couldn't do this by myself. From customer service to fulfillment to not necessarily marketing and design. I did have someone help me with some Facebook ads. But from the design standpoint and like the business admin standpoint, that's where I kind of felt like I shined the best. So I definitely appreciated those who came and helped me out. Obviously I was paying them, but like they came and really helped to get the business back on solid ground when things really got shook up.
I mean, there's just so much to unpack here. Number one, all right, so when you were starting with Shopify, you're still in the dorm room at this point. You're still managing this with your actual studies
Yep.
and your actual, but how much was the business making back in those days? Was this like paying your college tuition or just a nice little side hustle check?
So thankfully, with my grades from high school and with the scholarship from my church, my tuition was covered, room and board was covered. However, like my living money wasn't covered. And I think
Mm-hmm.
the business, and from the get go, the way that I built the business, even from a a product pricing standpoint, it's always been profitable, which is a blessing. And so I was making significant money. However, I was not managing it well. So even though I was bringing in, hundreds, thousands sometimes, I wasn't managing it. I was just bringing it in, eventually down the line.
What
And that's
were
something
you doing
too.
with it? What were you
I
buying?
was spending it. I was a college student. So, I was, feeding myself. That's one thing I will say. I was feeding myself, I
Yeah.
really, and that's the crazy thing. That's the crazy thing. Like, I think back, I wasn't really buying nothing like for real, I
Right.
was
It's
just
crazy how
spending
like
it.
all
Like,
I do is like eat and shop on like, where did it go? Like I'm not even buying
literally,
this much.
literally. I will say though, I definitely like, I bought me a new computer. No, I bought me a refurbished
Well, you
computer,
needed
which
that for
was,
business,
yeah, I
right?
needed that, label printers. That's what I mentioned when, I
Hmm.
believe it was sophomore, junior year. I started doing swimwear and kind of one-off things. I don't know if I necessarily know if I like that lane for me. But that was really fun to be able to do something real unique. And that, I think the girlies loved it. They ate that up because it was just so different from what was being offered. But yeah,
Right.
before QuickBooks got introduced, yeah, the money was coming in and it was going out. So yeah.
All right. Well, I'm glad you tightened that up. Oh my goodness, that's a common refrain though. So at that point, right? Like, what were some of the shifts that you had to make to start to put some structure in place around finances, around really
Mhm.
tightening up the business?
So one, knowing my numbers, like I didn't
Mhm.
know, what my average order value was. I didn't know how many email subscribers I had. I didn't know how
Mm.
much sales I was making on a monthly, weekly, daily basis. I didn't know how many sessions I was getting. Those numbers matter, obviously, just to make sure that your business is profitable, but also so
Right.
you can understand, how to talk to people. In my email list, I have a very large email list now, and I'm actually in the works of kind of re-engaging with that list. But knowing how many sessions I'm getting, and
Mm.
there's no point in having pop-ups and products and all this stuff if you're not getting people to your site. So that like
Right.
helped me knowing where my sessions were coming from, whether that was social media,
Hmm.
whether that was direct. I mean, that's something that I
Mm.
would say has been a blessing and a frustration. I won't call it a curse, but it's been a frustration
Yeah.
because I believe from conversations I've had with others that a lot of my business does come from word of mouth, which is a blessing because that's free. That's, and it's oftentimes from somebody who supported me. So they're speaking well on the brand. But I
Right.
can't necessarily have control over them, and
And
really be able
track
to speak to
that.
them unless they come
Right.
exactly. But knowing your metrics is key.
You said QuickBooks. Did you hire a CPA or just like really start learning to be a better bookkeeper yourself?
So I did hire a CPA. I did. So
Okay.
I knew that I needed to do QuickBooks. And what's great about everything, a lot of the business I run, because I run an e-commerce business, a lot was online. So, I was able
Uh-huh.
to plug and play a lot of that information and sort through it as needed. But that CPA
Yes.
helped me because I had a ton of transactions. I don't know if you use QuickBooks, but like with their
I do.
PayPal and like the fees
Yes.
and the all that.
Yeah.
So they were able to come in and get me right. And now
Get
I'm
it
able
together.
to
Yes.
do it by myself. It's like just like a admin task that I go in, on a weekly basis to make sure things are being sorted and where they need to be. But hiring the CPA really helped me to take it off my plate. And to, I don't know if you experience this, but like, it's like I'm acting funny with money and I don't need to. I need to know my numbers.
Yeah,
So
yeah, you
having
need to know
somebody
your
to come
numbers.
in and get me
Yeah.
right, and two, she was a black woman.
Yeah.
I'm
So you
working with
have that
somebody.
accountability. You can't just be like,
Exactly.
no one's gonna see this but me. No, no, no.
Exactly.
I'm gonna report to,
When you're
her name is at
right,
that monthly
right. When
check-in.
you're working by yourself, it's
That's
so
a good tip.
easy to not hold yourself accountable. It's so
Mhm.
easy to just let things pass by the wayside because
Yeah.
you do have other things going on.
You do have other
But like
things
you
going on.
said, that extra accountability allowed me to really lock in, make sure my numbers were right, make sure I had money to pay her to do what I needed her to do, and make sure that as I was making money, I was able to understand the amount of money I could take back and invest, whether that was into new products, whether that was into marketing services, whether that was into influencers. There's no point in my opinion, running a business if you are not profitable. Like, or you cannot
Yeah,
run a business if you're not profitable.
right.
So
Exactly.
I low key had to sit
Not
myself
forever.
down.
And the IRS
And
will tell you that too. They'll say,
there you
get out of
go.
here.
Yeah. Is it a business? Is it
It's,
a business?
are you
Like,
sure it's
so exactly.
does. And what else did you learn on the side of growing your business? Like you said, there's a lot of word of mouth here. Did you actually do any focus marketing or think about that at all when you were starting out on how do I get people? You mentioned ads. Like, what were you doing before you even got to ads to grow and market the business?
I didn't do anything. To be candid, I did. What I will say is, like I said, I speak to my family a lot. Like, and it's mostly
Mhm.
women. So if I have a new design, I would show them. Would you
Mm.
wear this? Give me an honest opinion. And that's something
Yeah,
too. I know that as artists, we're very sensitive about our stuff, but that's something
yeah,
that I really appreciated is that blatant honesty because I don't want to put nothing out that's funky. If
yeah,
it's near and dear to my heart and it's something that I really feel like people resonate, I'm gonna do it because I'm the decision maker at
yeah.
the end of the day.
Right,
But
right.
having those conversations with people really helped. I will say, last year, 2 years ago, I'm working on like a new product, that's separate from apparel, accessories, and home decor. And I wanted to get people's feedback. And so I did like a survey, like I think I shared it on like our Instagram on our stories. And people actually engaged with it. And I was able to get that really, it helped me with my decision making and
Okay,
understanding potentially the lanes that I could go to with that product. So I would say
okay.
that has been helpful. Hmm.
Okay. And speaking of all, so you have a lot of products and
Hmm.
you have to manage as a e-commerce business owner that dance between ideas, the excitement to create it, and then not having just too much stuff on your site, right? Consumer
Hmm.
overwhelm or not having, I don't know if you hold any inventory at all now, but, or where you manufacture, but having to balance inventory loads so you're not losing money. So how did you manage that process?
A lot of my designs that are on the site, a lot of them are like print on demand. Some of them are inventory. 3PLs are really great, which is like a fulfillment
Mhm.
service is really great. One of the products that I currently manufacture myself, which it is a manufacturing, but it's like it's not. I don't wouldn't call it on that scale. But the product, a product that I manufacture myself, is our acrylic bookmarks. And right now, one of my
Mm.
goals is to get the products into wholesale. I actually
Okay.
don't know if I really like the process of like holding my own inventory, selling it that way.
Mhm.
I love wholesale. I love retail. And obviously I love like direct to consumer for my products that are print on demand.
Yeah.
But that's like one of another like kind of lane that I'm trying to get into where I'm able to
Mhm.
kind of have more of a grasp on how much is my inventory worth what I'm spending, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense because
Mhm.
inventory is expensive. No matter what the price point
Yeah.
is, it is
Hmm.
expensive to have to buy and hold inventory. And when you say prints on demand, I'm curious if, so for
Hmm.
example, the pour into you mug, which I'll insert a picture since I don't have
Hmm.
it right now. That is a
Gotcha.
very beautiful rose pink colored glass. So that's not like when you think prints on demand, you're usually thinking
No.
a picture on a white mug. Like, is
Yeah.
that mug
Yeah.
considered prints on demand? Because it is a
No.
unique color, a unique composition.
No, that's actually like that's a limited edition product, and this is something I definitely need to do better work with, especially with when it comes to marketing and kind of brand storytelling. A lot of times, I don't know. This past year, for Black History Month, I released a collection, and one of our bags was a dope Black woman bag, and that
Yes.
bag. It was people were they were I wasn't getting death threats, but like it was close in our email. And that was a limited edition product, and that's something that I need to do a better job of as a brand and brand owner, is sharing those opportunities that I do receive to make sure people know that this is like a once in a lifetime kind of thing. I don't know
Oh
if I'll ever
yes,
produce
you
something
need
like
to
this
share
again.
that.
And
Yeah.
so I definitely need to do a better job. If I do get more opportunities for that in the future, I'll definitely do that, because I want people to be able to get those limited edition items. Whenever I'm creating, kind of like you said, the Pouring to You Black Queen, where it's like a different product, something that you can't go to a store and get that. That's something that
Mhm.
is inside of me that I create, from like like the design that's actually on the product, to the color, to the material. Like, I'm hands on in everything that I create and I put out in that lane. And I kind of think of it like a china cabinet. Those
Yes.
pieces that you're not even supposed to touch, but you obviously can't. I make them for use, but I want them. I really appreciate those opportunities, because I'm able to create things that I might not necessarily feel like is the best capital investment for my business directly. So when I am working with like retailers and wholesale, I'm able to kind of put a little more pizzazz on it than I'm able to offer at this level that I'm at.
Okay. Because with those
Mhm.
partnerships, so they're obviously holding the inventory and then
Mhm.
they command more so that you can put more into the creation that might be more expensive.
Right. Yes.
So now let's transition to talking about getting into these major retailers. So you've worked with brands like Target. Let me know if there are
Mhm.
some others you want to spotlight, but how did the partnership with Target come about? How did you get into retail?
So I feel like we kind of talked about this earlier, but I truly believe that my name is in rooms that I haven't stepped into yet. They actually reached out to me. I don't really, and I probably should have asked this. I don't really know how they discovered me. Probably social media as well.
Yes.
But when we were, initially having a conversation, it was kind of just like, this is the project we're working on. We would love to, see what you have to offer. And it kind of built from there. I've
Yeah.
learned a lot. I've learned a
Yeah.
lot. Not necessarily even about from a design standpoint, which I've learned a lot in that regard, but in a communication standpoint, in a negotiating standpoint, and from like a business standpoint, from legal. I really appreciated the opportunity to work with retailers, because it pushed me, it forced me to learn more. When I was just doing, my e-commerce site, I wasn't working with anyone else. I was making the decisions. I could, if I wanted to shut down today, I could. Like, that was an option, because, it was just me, doing it. But working with the retailers has allowed me to learn and grow as a business owner, and also to share products that I couldn't even imagine truly being held in my hand. And I'm able to create those. Even this is from this year's collection as well. And I knew when I made it, I said, oh yeah, they're gonna love this, because I love it. And again, I create for myself and also for my audience.
How do those perform? Like, how are you assessed? And I mean, obviously you're selling out, right? But
Yeah.
how do those perform on the financial end, right? Now that you have a
Mhm.
partner and you're doing revenue differently and profitability looks different. So how is that for you? Is it worthwhile for you beyond the visibility and brand awareness? Is it fiscally worthwhile for you?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely fiscally worthwhile. And two, it allows me two things. It allows me to pay my bills. It allows me to sustain myself. I will say though, I am actually working full time and also doing this. I've been in a battle between next directions for my life as a creative. But this allows me to sustain life. It allows me to go out and travel and research and see. Like I actually was able to visit Amsterdam last year and see, visit boutiques and see what they were doing, see how they were doing things. So this is it's definitely fiscally helpful to the business. And also it allows for me to speak on my brand, speak on myself. It's one thing for me to share my numbers from a e-commerce standpoint on how successful that business has been. But when I go into a Fortune 500 company and say, I did this, the business did this, the supporters did this, they show up and they show out. It really helps me as a business to show that I not only really resonate with my audience and sometimes others, but also that the products resonate.
Yes. And what you've been able to do on your own as a business owner, not a lot of people have done that. So you could really take that and go into so many fields. Speaking of deciding on your next direction in life, but tell us about how your side hustle journey has been working full time and then having this hugely successful company with brand partnerships with being in retail at Target. First of all, like, when did you start working full time? What industry did you decide on instead of biochemistry? How has it been?
Gotcha. So I was actually just running Legendary Rootz full time until 2023, I believe. And I was like, I think I want a job. I wanted more. I wanted obviously more money, more ability to do things. I love traveling. If I want to go somewhere, I would love having the opportunity to go and travel. I work remotely, which is really a blessing. I work in the nonprofit field. If you are into politics, you might have seen my work. It's not signed by me, but you might have seen my work. I won't share the company, but
I think I can put two and two together.
yeah. I love it because the work that I'm doing is, I truly believe, making a difference, and something that I really love my impact, that I've been able to take the important work that my organization is doing and put it to something visually beautiful. I think that's like my whole thing is like turning, a lot of text, a lot of words, a lot of passion, and putting it to something that's digestible. And I definitely had to learn the balance, especially working on these bigger projects with huge retailers while also having a full 9 to 5. And one thing that really helped me was getting sleep. I have a bedtime. And it's funny
nice.
because
What time is your bedtime?
My bedtime is 10:45. I don't know if that's late early, but 10:45. And I have a morning routine. So that's part of like the reason why, because I'm like, are you burnt out? Or you're not getting enough rest. And oftentimes I wasn't getting enough rest. So I had to, again, have that conversation with myself. So I set a bedtime. Once I'm done with work, I kind of allow some time to just, chill, relax, not do anything. And then I around 6, my 5 to 9 after my 9 to 5, I'm making dinner. I'm looking at my task tracker. I don't know if you've heard of ClickUp, but I use ClickUp to track my tasks, track what I'm doing. Sometimes I forget to go into ClickUp. So I'm reconciling my dates, making sure that I'm up to date on whatever I need to do. And then kind of setting things out. And also, I know that not a lot of people are fortunate, but I have a separate space. So sometimes I do work from bed, to be honest, but I try to come to my office and separate the two so that when I'm working, I'm working, and when I'm relaxing. And that's helped me to find a lot of peace in all of the different things that I juggle.
It's so interesting because it's good to talk to people, because a lot of people are assuming from the outside in what your life must look like. Like, you're doing this, you're in this retailer, you must be doing XYZ, but actually you decided like, hey, you know what? I want more. And it sounds like you're like, I want more predictability, because that's I like your word, the frustration. I won't call it a challenge or, a curse, but that is the road that you travel sometimes as an entrepreneur, is the less predictability around your income. And sometimes you might just say, I'm I'm tired of this. Like, I still like doing this, but I need a regular paycheck too. So it sounds like that
And
was part of the appeal for you.
right. And we kind of touched on it when it comes to like knowing your numbers, knowing your metrics.
Yes.
I don't know if people like know about like FIRE, but like financially independent, retire
Yep.
early. So like
Mhm.
learning about money, learning that money is a tool.
Yep.
And therapy, I think, has really helped me to work on like the fears around money, the fears of around lack, and really being okay with those feelings, letting those feelings sit. And because oftentimes those feelings subconsciously are the reasons why you're making certain decisions. So I
Yes.
think knowing what I want and knowing why I want it has really allowed me to be okay with, you know, certain decisions, whether that's working full time, whether that's not working full time and freelancing, because I was freelancing at one point. And two, it kind of, like you said, it takes that pressure off and it
Yes.
allows me to reaffirm my skills. Like,
Yes.
just
Yes.
because I, you know,
In
can
different
create beautiful
spaces
things for
too.
Legendary Roots, different spaces,
Yeah.
different industries, being able to really show my skill sets because, and I think that that is definitely something that I struggle with when I was navigating whether I was going to get a full time freelance, doing whatever to just supplement my income. Is that because I did Legendary Roots for so long, that was my portfolio. And you know
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
definitely helped with other people in my life. I helped them do their branding, but that was like a branding identity. That was not it, but that was it. I really could show and really speak to how my design work has allowed for businesses to thrive.
Yeah.
So freelancing and working the 9 to 5 have reinstilled that for me. And I've never really worked in corporate America. So
Mhm.
it instilled, you know, my skill sets around cross functional, and I'm still using that, when these opportunities come with retailers, you know, email, I don't know if you experienced it, but the emails and the meetings and all that, and
Yes. Yes.
being able to have conversations and translate your ideas well, I'm picking up all that as I'm going because I know what my final goal is. So I'm using that as like a lead way to where I really want to go.
Oh, I love that. Oh, you
Mm-hmm.
said so many important things. Knowing your numbers, of course, but knowing your
Mm-hmm.
numbers and relating it to your goal. So many
Mm-hmm.
of us, we don't stop enough to say, okay, what do I really want out of life?
Mm-hmm.
And how do I want to focus on getting there?
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to retire by a certain age, then all
Mm-hmm.
right, you're going to need your numbers to look a certain way. What are the actual numbers that you need? All right. Then you could say, okay, I need X amount per year, per month. And the other thing is, were you ever worried about it taking away from your business? Because that's something people worry about. Like, all right, well, how will I juggle both now? That's basically two full-time jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. You said it. I would say that I think I've always been a go-getter. So
Yeah.
I don't necessarily I never took it from that lens of like, you know, one taking over the other. It was about balance. Like I think this is why my desire is kind of leaning towards that retiring early, figuring out what I want next in life is because I've been grinding. I was grinding in high school, got good grades. I didn't work. I worked like a summer job once I graduated, but I didn't work in high school. And then I went to college. I got my biochemistry degree while I was building this business. Now I'm working full time while I was building this business. So I've always been like a hustler and I've always, you know, wanted things for myself. But I think finding balance and remembering my why has really allowed me to have that common ground, being able to do my work when I need to, while also being able to help and continue building my business, make sure that I'm showing up. And these opportunities through these retailers do allow me the space and time to not have to grind as much as I used to when I was just kind of doing my e-commerce like kind of business model. And the foundation, and this is why even in times of strife when I have been building this business, I've always said thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I practice gratitude. And this is what I want
Love
to mention, I
it.
forgot about it, but there are things and experiences that I'm living now that I prayed for, I wished for. And so I have to make sure that I'm grateful for the opportunities and to be intentional about not only the things that I do, but the things that I say, the things that I think, because it all fuels me internally. So knowing all of that allows me to keep the focus. And when I need to pull back, I pull back. Like I'm not a machine. I'm not a machine. And learning that and remembering that and constantly reminding myself of that allows me to have that peace to where I'm not overworking myself. And if I do feel burnt out, I'm taking a trip.
Yeah,
So shout out to
I'm
PTO.
getting out of here. You said it.
I'll see y'all
Oh
when you when
man.
I've set up the systems and the templates and anything
Yes.
y'all need is set up in there. If y'all whatever
Okay.
y'all don't have, I'll get back to it when I get back. So
Oh my gosh. I needed that reminder. Thank you. This is why I always love having these
yeah.
conversations. We're about to jump into
Mhm,
the lightning round, but I just had to thank you because the gratitude piece is so important. I also believe in
mhm,
manifestation, and I got to work
mhm,
on my gratitude piece even more because yes, I do
mhm,
have a lot of things that I prayed for.
mhm,
And in those moments of frustration, strife, overwhelm, chaos, I'm like, it's chaotic. But
mhm.
then if I
Yep.
just leave that gratitude, which I need to, so I will.
Mhm.
We're going to jump into a quick lightning round. You know the deal. You just answer the first thing that comes to mind. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Number one, what is a resource, top resource that comes to mind, not Google, that is helping you in your business right now that you can share with the Side Hustle Pro audience?
Figma. I use Figma oftentimes for creating my social graphics.
FIGMA?
Figma. A lot of my social media graphics I create from there, and I love it because it's basically templates. It's like Canva, but like more technical. But it's so once
Ooh,
you get it set up with some components, you can set up like your
yes.
colors, you can set up your text, you can set up your logo. I'm just
Nice.
dragging like if I have a cis or a dear black woman, I'm able to kind of type that in and push it out in maybe a minute if that. Like it's such a good tool. I'm able to have better systems because before I was all over the place when it comes to social media graphics. So I love Figma. Get it, sign up for it, let me know what you
Ooh.
think.
You just put me on game. Absolutely, because I love your graphics. Love it.
Thank
All
you.
right. Number two, who is a non-celebrity black woman entrepreneur who you would want to switch places with for a day and why?
Shoot, I'm like, when you like think and you're, because I think the non-celebrity threw me off, so I'm just
Okay,
kind
because
of,
I put the pressure on. All right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
No.
yeah.
Okay. Take out the non-celebrity. I'm curious. Who would you say?
Okay, and this is why, because she's really my model for my mindset. I would say Shonda Rhimes. I
Hmm.
try to read Year of Yes. It's a book she wrote years ago. I try to read that every year because it
Ooh.
really inspired me to say yes to more opportunities. Honestly, there were other retailers that offered me an opportunity before the main one I took, and I said no to it just because it didn't feel right
Yeah.
for me. But that book
Right.
really highlighted the importance of saying yes and being grateful of the things that come to me and not shying away because I don't want to do it or because it makes my tummy hurt a little bit. So I would say Shonda
Right.
Rhimes. I would just want to see,
Right.
all that she does.
Yeah.
And I know that she's like recently had some opportunities where she had to speak up and say no and speak up for herself. So I just love that. And she really inspires me to keep up and keep showing up as an entrepreneur.
Likewise. Oh,
Mhm.
and I love when she took her brand and took her
You
shows
said
over
it.
because this
Clock
playing games.
it. Yep. You gotta do what you gotta do. Cause she knew she had to get. She knew she was the it. She had the it. So yeah.
She was it. All
Hmm.
right. Number three, what is a non-negotiable part of your day these days?
Having breakfast and being intentional about it. And typically when I have my breakfast is after getting that protein in has been something else. It's so weird because like I just can't imagine myself doing this, but I'm living it, and like I said, it's something that
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do more seriously. So getting breakfast in, making sure that I'm starting my day right. So I would say that's
Yes.
like a non-negotiable.
And then what's a personal trait that you think has really contributed to your success?
I ain't never scared. I even when I was first, doing these like larger projects, I
Mhm.
walked into the room being confident in my skill sets, knowing who I am, knowing
Right.
that what's for me will not pass me, and
Right.
knowing that God is guiding me to wherever I need to go. So just being confident and
Amen.
knowing that what's for me is for me, and if it's not for me, it's all right. I'm still me at the end of the day.
I love it. Finally, what is your parting advice, Raven, for fellow women entrepreneurs, fellow people with gifts who just want to see something in the world, but are scared about, okay, not having a steady paycheck or all those
Mhm.
different fears?
Um, I would say just start and ask for help. I actually listened to
Mm.
I believe your last podcast with Rachel, and you all were
Yes,
talking
yes.
about outsourcing. Laundry,
Yes.
yes. Cleaning,
Laundry.
yes.
Oh,
I
life
just had
changing. Life changing.
like a download recently about
Uh-huh.
delegating. So I've been doing some research into how to delegate, what to delegate. So ask for help. You don't have to do everything on your own. And be okay with when you get that help. Be okay with them giving you their opinion, especially if they're an expert. Because that's something we think we know everything. So
Yeah.
being humble with that
Be
support that you
open.
receive. Yep.
Yes. Ooh, a perfect parting word. So with that, you guys, thank you so much for being in the guest chair. Where can people connect with you and Legendary Rootz after this episode?
Gotcha. You can hit us up on all social media, Legendary Roots with a Z, and also at legendaryroots.com to explore our site, explore our products, and learn more about our story.
Whoop, whoop. And there you have it. Hey guys, thanks for listening to Side Hustle Pro. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other side hustlers just like you to find the show. And if you want to hear more from me, you can follow me on Instagram at Side Hustle Pro. Plus, sign up for my 6-bullet Saturday newsletter at sidehustlepro.co/newsletter. When you sign up, you will receive weekly nuggets from me, including what I'm up to, personal lessons, and my business tip of the week. Again, that's sidehustlepro.co/newsletter to sign up. Talk to you soon.